Nobody even knows how many untested rape kits there are. The untested DNA kits that you take not just from rape victims, but other victims of crime. Nobody knows. The most famous case of these untested kits was in Detroit, where a couple of years ago they found 11,000 untested kits that have been sitting in a warehouse for 5 years. Memphis had over 10,000. So some people, a few years ago, they were putting that number as high as 400,000. Today, people put the number at 100,000. And here's what we know for sure about the rape kits. If city officials, if city leaders, the people who run these police departments, if they wanted to catch the people connected to the DNA, they would have had them tested. Period. End of sentence.
DNA has become more and more in the last few years, more and more prevalent in helping us solve our cases.
And that's exactly how Constable Mark Herman's investigators were able to figure out who had robbed and bitten a woman in this Walmart parking lot 3 years ago.
We were able to get our investigators out there, take DNA swabs, and here we are 3 years later, we get a genetic hit.
DNA evidence was sent to the Harris County Institute of Forensic Science for analysis, and they were able to identify Larry Dean Robertson Jr. as the suspect.
I think it's wonderful. You know, we've come a long ways.
This spring, Barbara knows a little about DNA. Other than the bizarre case of the suspected robber biting the woman, he's glad about how technology is helping law enforcement solve crimes.
I am so happy, and I'm glad, and I hope they do catch that guy.
We're happy 3 years later, and we're going to get this guy hopefully off the streets and make our streets safer.
Why don't we move up to Detroit for a story that just came in an hour or two ago? I think it's safe to call Detroit the rape capital of America. So check out this guy. Check out what he did. Check out how he got caught. Then answer me this question. Do you think that rape was this dude's first time at the rodeo?
Well, Stephen and Carolyn, the attack happened here right off this trail, right in this open field here at the Oakwoods Metro Park Trails. It was the middle of the day, bright sunshine. The woman was jogging along when the attacker tackled her from behind, and miraculously, she was able to fight back and get help.
Took her to the ground, told her that if she didn't quit fighting, that he would kill her, and he attempted to sexually assault her.
But the 26-year-old victim didn't quit fighting. She was able to escape. She ran down the road to the nearest home and called for help. Jan Schaefer was there.
She was screaming help and then knocking on the door. When I come around, it was locked. And then I seen that she was all bloody and her eye was swollen. She had a big knot on her nose.
Schaefer says the entire situation was very scary.
And I calmed her down, and then 911 called back. And then she was worried that he followed her back here, and I says, honey, don't worry about that. I said, police been called, I have my gun.
And she says the fact that the woman fought back impressed her.
She beat him, and I kicked and screamed.
And Huron Township police agree.
The real hero of this incident is our victim. She fought her attacker. She was able to quickly get to a house. She was able to relay quick information to us.
And police were able to track down that suspect on one of the trails within 30 minutes. They say 47-year-old Darian Fickling stole the woman's cell phone and still had it on him. People who use the Oakwoods Metro Park trails are stunned to hear this happen.
Oh my God. That scared me. Yeah, I've been walking here for 25 years. 25 years and nothing like this ever happened.
But Fickling is in custody and police want people to feel safe.
He was clearly a predator yesterday, and he was out looking for a female to assault.
Now, it's important to be aware of your surroundings. If you can go out in pairs, that'd be great. Also, don't wear headphones if you can. And if you spot something suspicious and it makes you feel uncomfortable, you can always call police for help. Live tonight in Huron Township, Brianne Palmerini, 7 Action News.
Certainly good advice to remember. So, Brianne, did the victim notice this suspect on the trails before this assault?
Carolyn, she actually did. She told police she saw him a couple of times pass her, and he did make her feel uncomfortable, but she lost sight of him, and then he attacked her from behind. Now, thankfully, again, she was able to escape, and she's doing much better tonight. Well, back to you, Karen.
Yeah, thank goodness. Yeah, quick thinking on her behalf. Thank you so much, Brianne, for the live report.
Lord save us from these worthless tips on self-defense that we get from these news readers. Okay, so how does the conversation go? You're on a trail, you see some dude, looks like he's going to rape you. How does that go? Call the cops and you say, hey, I just saw a suspicious looking dude, a black dude. I think he's going to rape me. Remember, Detroit is the kind of town, and we've done a couple of videos on this, where a business owner was watching on his smartphone. He was watching a burglar inside of his business. He dials 911 and says, "Hey, there's a burglar in my business. Could you guys, if you get a moment or two, spare moment, could you head on down there and put the silver bracelets on him?" They said, "Yeah, we'll get there as soon as we can." They showed up 4 hours later. Cops don't roll in Detroit unless they know there's a gun involved. So having some anonymous jogger call in a tip on some anonymous person in Detroit, that's a waste of time. That's dangerous when we're talking about this kind of stuff. Out in Kansas City, I'm still waiting on this, but how many stories have we done? How many hundreds and hundreds of cases of violence, assault, and rape have we documented on these hiking and biking trails all over the country? Lots and lots, especially in Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. But we've done here a lot on this channel and on my last channel as well. And I just don't remember any case of violence on a hiking or biking trail that was done by anybody else but a black person. Tons of it. At a minimum, let's just say white and Asian people are significantly underrepresented in the crimes on hiking and biking trail statistics. But then we go to Kansas City. The last month or two, we've had a story of 5 older white dudes walking their dogs on a hiking and biking trail in Kansas City, get attacked, robbed, and killed. So in this channel, we don't speculate, we don't guess. If we have the story, we do it. But when this story comes out, and when they catch that guy, if it's a white person, it will be the first one we've seen do anything on these hiking and biking trails. And I don't know if it's going to be one of these stories where when we catch him, it turns out his DNA is sitting in one of these kits in one of the big chocolate cities. Oh yeah, that's where all the untested rape kits are, in the big chocolate cities: Detroit, Memphis. I know they had a lot of New Orleans, but the federal government has been throwing money at these kits these cities to try to get them to test the kits. They even went to Memphis. And they said, "Hey, why don't you guys have 10,000 untested rape kits sitting there?" Because, bad people like me were going, "Hey, if you wanted to catch the criminals, you would test the kits, period. I don't want to hear anything else." But we know in places like Detroit, Memphis, New Orleans, lots of other cities around the country, black criminals are really the victims. Remember Melissa Harris Perry saying black women don't turn in black rapists because they're afraid of the police violence that will be visited upon this rapist? So Eric Holder's Department of Justice came back and said, "Well, we investigated Memphis, and it turns out there was no malicious intent in not investigating the DNA rape kits, the DNA samples left behind by these black criminals in Memphis. It was just incompetence. The officials were not aware of the value of DNA testing." This wasn't in the report, but I think I'm thinking about doing an addendum to the report, put a little footnote in there and say, yes, that was a perfectly good reason why, and also they didn't test the kits because they just didn't want to make the black kids angry.